I just realized I just let go of my biggest client and I could easily let go of all the other clients and finally step into the business that I've wanted for so long. So that was that moment, like, let's just do this.
I'm Amy Jo Martin. Welcome to the Why Not Now show. You know that thing you've been thinking about doing? Yeah, that one. Why not now? Have you ever actually taken the time to ask yourself, what's stopping me? Let's talk it through. This is your chance to give that idea the attention it deserves and take action. Each episode, I have a chat with a fascinating person, from entrepreneurs to athletes, celebrities, my parents, rocket scientists, and all walks of life. We talk through a critical time when they've asked themselves, why not now? We dissect that day or even that moment, step by step. Amy Porterfield is on the show today. Double the Amy's, double the fun, of course. Amy's incredible. I probably took more notes during this interview with her than any other interview and episode I've done to date. She is an online wizard, truly. She's an entrepreneur. She's a podcast host. And you're going to want to write down a lot of things she says. So if you're in the car, get ready to take some voice notes. Before Amy started her own business, she worked for other brands, big brands like Harley-Davidson and Tony Robbins. And then she finally decided she was ready to take the leap. She talks about being plagued with the chronic cases of second guessing and shiny object syndrome and that feeling of not enoughness during this phase when she was going out on her own. And she refers to when she was working with the big brands as being sort of a yes girl, always wanting to please, desperate for approval, and then everything changed. So Amy started to get traction with her company. And this was her first go-round at entrepreneurship. And the business model she set up was more one-on-one consulting. She realized she created the wrong freaking business. What she did next was she shifted things and changed up her economic model, her value offering, and started offering online training courses about things like online training courses, how to build your email list and really make your business thrive from the health of the email list. And this really has taken off for her. She's become the expert in this field, and it's amazing how much value she offers up in this episode. I think Amy and I are cut from the same cloth because she is also all about providing as much tangible, practical information and takeaways as possible. So there are a lot of things that she says that are going to be things that you can take away and do literally today. Amy is the podcast host of the Online Marketing Made Easy podcast, so make sure you check that out too. Not only are you going to learn things in this podcast that oftentimes we hear about, maybe we talk a little bit about, but we don't maybe have the best grasp on, like building a really healthy email list and how crucial that is to your business. But we also hear about Amy's journey, and she's so candid with the things that have gone really wrong and the things that she's changed and the things that are going very right and how she got through and navigated those challenging times. It's all relatable. It's so relatable. So enjoy this conversation with Amy. We tackle the most taboo topics on the Why Not Now show. Oftentimes, you're hearing guests share things they've never shared before. In the spirit of things we don't typically talk about, you should know that the Why Not Now show is supported by Poo-Pourri, the original before you go toilet spray. It's magic. My friends at Poo-Pourri have literally taken the smell out of you-know-what. This pure blend of essential oils stops bathroom odor before it begins. Visit poopourri.com, and Why Not Now listeners get 20% off with code WHYNOTNOW. That's all one word. And you can hear the story about Poopery in our interview with founder Susie Batiste. That's Why Not Now, episode 28. Poopery is also available at Target. Amy, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I've really been looking forward to this, and let's dive right in. Can you tell me about a time when you had to ask yourself, why not now? And we will dissect that day, that minute, that hour, that season.
Yes. So I was standing in the kitchen in my little condo that I had bought all by myself. I was so proud of it. But at the time, I had just met my husband. And so we were just married and started to live in this little condo together. I remember exactly where I was standing. And I was on the phone with my former boss, Tony Robbins. And he was going to be on the Today Show. And we were trying to get him ready for the Today Show, and things weren't going as planned. And so it was really messy, really confusing. He was frustrated with the whole process, and I was kind of right there in the middle of it. And I had been thinking for so long that I wanted to go out on my own and create my own business. And for some reason, in that moment, when everything kind of was going wrong, I thought in my head, I am ready. Why am I not taking the leap and starting my own business? And it just so happened it was that moment, but I remember it like it was yesterday.
Wow. So it's funny because it sounds like all the right things and all the wrong things were happening at the right time.
Yes.
Right?
It's so true. You actually are the first person that ever said it like that, and it is so true.
So it was coming to, one epic point, and there you are. Can you tell me a little bit about what it was like leading up to that? Because, clearly this had been brewing, but you hadn't greenlit it yet. So, we get to those points where this is happening. I'm going to do this. But at the same time, it hadn't prior. So what was it like prior? Because there wasn't something quite clicking as much.
Yes. So true. So what had happened is about a year before that, I had this great opportunity to sit in on a meeting and take notes. Very humbling. I was literally called in to take notes. I wasn't even asked to the main table. I was at a table on the side of the room. And Tony had brought in a bunch of internet marketers into the office, and he asked them about their business. We are just getting into online launches of Tony's physical and digital products. And so he brought in these big internet marketers. So if you know internet marketing, you know the names Frank Kern, Eben Pagan, Brendan Burchard, Jeff Walker. These were the guys that were at the table. I didn't know who the heck they were, but they went around and they talked about their businesses and what they do in their business and what they create and what their life looks like. And my ears perked up like, what are these guys talking about? This whole online marketing world was new to me, but I loved the businesses that they were creating. And so that was my first taste of, wait, there's another world out there that I don't know anything about. And so over the next year, I got to work on these online launches that Tony did with his products. I got to get in the trenches, learn everything there was to learn about it, and I fell in love. I loved the idea of creating online courses and teaching what you know and then learning how to market them online. And so I paid attention and I wanted it bad, but I was so scared to take the leap. And I had a job with Tony Robbins. I mean, a good job. I was managing a team. I was traveling the world with Tony's team, Fiji and the Philippines and everywhere, London. We went to the coolest places ever, and I got to be a part of that. But I knew there was something else that I wanted out there. More than anything, if I was being really honest, I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to call the shots. I didn't want to be on somebody else's schedule. I didn't want to be creating for somebody else. No matter if it was someone amazing like Tony or not, I wanted to do my own thing. And so all of that kind of led up to that moment in the kitchen in my condo when it didn't even matter that things weren't going right and that people were frustrated. It was just that moment that I thought, okay, Amy, now let's get this going. Let's finally do this. I don't know if I needed a really scary negative moment to push me or not, but it kind of felt that way.
Oh, I love this runway that you had, though, because it's
I think similarly, when let's call it the corporate side, even though Tony Robbins isn't exactly probably super corporate-y culture, but at the same time, you were working for a big company. And I imagine the culture and just what you learned in general, having had Tony Robbins on this show, he's just so powerful. And at the same time, you had this at least year of brewing and learning and immersing and kind of falling in love with internet marketing, as I use air quotes over here. What an awesome runway to then give you the confidence and build to make that leap. It wasn't like you took a hard right turn. You were able to have this kind of runway. And I think that's something that we dismiss, especially if we're, working for an entity that maybe we have desires to do other things, but you can still get paid to learn, as Mark Cuban has said before on the show.
So true.
And
so
how
true.
Smart of you.
I think, and I also think that moment, I love that you ask about like the moment, because I look back and so many people that I work with now, they don't like their jobs or they're unhappy and they make it about everybody else. And in that moment, there was stress and Tony was frustrated and things weren't going well. I am sure I created a lot of that stress that was happening because I was at a place that I wanted to take the leap so bad and I hadn't yet. And so there was probably a lot of stress around me that I was creating. So I look back and I totally own it. Whereas that is what needed to happen in my life for me to actually take the leap. So it's interesting if you look at your surroundings in the time that you have that pivotal moment, that I own it. That was all me. And owning it kind of even makes me even more excited for saying, I made it happen.
Absolutely. And that healthy tension, if you will, of that
Yes.
moment in your kitchen, I think sometimes is enough adversity or just enough pressure for us to say, all right, this is happening. We're green lighting this. And what's interesting, I'm going to bounce around a little bit here, but I think you have one of the best about me pages on your website that I've seen. So for anyone that's looking for a class act, just best in class case study, go and check out Amy's. I'll link to it. But is it amyporterfield.com about me, literally? I just want to make sure I give people
It might just be amyporterfield.com/even just about. I'm not positive.
Okay. Well, we're going to actually, here it is. So go to amyporterfield.com/about and just scroll and read. And I just love how fluid your story is. I felt like I got to know you, yet I also clearly understand the value that you're offering. And one of the things I took away from learning about you on this epic page is that you mentioned you were desperate for approval prior to making this leap, and you called yourself a corporate yes girl. And that just resonates not only with myself, but so many people. And that doesn't necessarily go away just because you start your own company, right? Doesn't mean that you lose your desperation for approval.
Oh, yes.
And there are various SKUs of and degrees of that. But can you talk a little bit about that prior to starting your company and then even post starting your company?
Yeah. So when I worked at the Robbins organization and really anything before that, I desperately wanted people's approval. I really genuinely cared about climbing the corporate ladder. And with that, as long as everybody liked me and they thought I was doing a good job and I showed up and I worked hard every day, then they would accept me and I would move up that ladder. And so this was very much a part of who I was at that time. And so that doesn't just go away. You're so right when you get into your own business. And so seeking approval, and all that I did in my corporate life basically just followed me right into the business that I created. And now it looked as though I was looking for approval from my customers, my community. And if anyone said anything negative about what I was doing, it would crush me. I also noticed that I was serving everybody, so I wasn't serving anybody. And that was another thing. I wanted to make everybody happy. So my message was general. I reached out to a really broad audience with a really broad topic. I was known for Facebook in the early days, but it was like Facebook for everybody. So I wasn't really specialized in any way whatsoever. And I really struggled with that. I cared too much about what everybody thought. And so what I noticed, like looking back, it's been almost 10 years now. So looking back, I realized that I had no idea who I was or who I wanted to be or how I wanted to show up. I just thought I was doing what everybody else wanted. And it doesn't make for a really satisfying experience building your own business when you don't even know who you are.
And that's, it's so timely, I think, for a lot of people right now. They want to define and get specific, yet I think in the early days of discovering what you may want to be doing, it starts out probably a little more broad. So that's a discovery process. And in yours, you have said, okay, so you went ahead, you got started, and you built the wrong freaking business in your own words, right?
Gosh, so true. I quit this corporate job and went off on my own, and I thought I would create online training courses around marketing and sell them. But I had no idea how to create online training courses. And I shouldn't say that. I saw it done in the Robbins organization, but that's very different when you do it on your own. And so I didn't know where to start. So instead, I started to take one-on-one consulting clients for social media, which I had done some when I was still in corporate. And so I started to take these clients, and I often joke that instead of having one big boss, literally Tony is a physically big guy, instead of having one big boss, I had like 8 mini bosses. I had 8 clients bossing me around. I didn't know how to set boundaries, telling me what they wanted, their expectations were wildly out of the realm of what I could do, but I just didn't know how to say no. I was still that corporate yes girl in my own business. And so I created a business that I hated. And that's hard for me to say because I thought I was ready to go out on my own. And then here it so happens that the first 2 years out on my own, I created a business that I did not want to work in. And I kept thinking, maybe I just have to go back to a job because this is not working. Mm-hmm. So that was very humbling, to say the least.
And thank you for sharing that, because it would be easy to leapfrog that bit of information. And clearly you've iterated and figured out how to not be held kind of hostage to your own or prisoner of your own economic model. And I want to get to that and definitely share some of the wisdom that you have to offer, because most people are trying to do exactly what you did. And I know personally, I did a very similar thing. And then also that need for approval. I know in my case, I had someone recently kind of call it out and say it in a way that I had never heard, but they articulated it so well. And this was Brandon Hawk. And he said to me, you know what, Amy Jo, your need for approval bypassed your heart.
Ooh,
and I was
so
like,
good.
And you know what happens when we do that? It's a recipe for not good. So the fact that you acknowledge this, and when you started to realize, okay, this isn't exactly what I signed up for. I'm building something I don't really want to be a part of because it's probably so taxing after you create demand, and it's a great thing, but it's also a curse. Was there another why not now moment where you just decided, that's it, I'm shifting again?
Yes. Okay. So what had happened is I took a bunch of consulting clients, and there was one client that was paying me a lot of money, and they were going through a transition. And I didn't enjoy working with this one client, but they were paying me a lot of money, and there was a lot of connections there. So my ego was tied to it, but I knew I wasn't meant to be there. And it just so happened that they were going through a transition and starting to let some contractors go. And in that moment, I knew that I wasn't going to get cut. However, I knew I needed to be cut. So I spoke up And this time I was in the family room of the same condo, and I was at the kitchen table. And I remember telling somebody that would work for the company, I think you need to let me go. I think we need to end the relationship. It's a perfect thing for you guys to save some money. And I think it's time. So I spoke this out into the world, kind of like when I said it, I wanted to take it all back, because we're talking thousands of dollars a month that I wouldn't be getting. And I was in debt at that point. I hadn't been running the financials of the business well. So I needed that money. But I just knew I was hanging on to this client because it was easy and safe, and it built my ego up. And I think some people listening can really resonate with that we say yes to this stuff because it's tied to our ego and we're very scared to let it go. And so I let it go. The guy agreed. He's like, okay, are you sure you want to do this? I said, I think it's the right thing. I hung up, and I remember Kesha was playing on my computer, like Spotify or whatever was popular at the time. This was so long ago. And I just danced it out. And I'm alone in my family room, dancing it out, terrified. But I just realized I just let go of my biggest client, and I could easily let go of all the other clients and finally step into the business that I've wanted for so long, which is to create online training courses and promote them online. So that was that moment, like, let's just do this.
Oh, it resonates so much. And in a way, we've all kind of heard that quote of, in order to embrace or create your new life, you have to let go of your old. Well, same with clients. I mean, it even comes down to literally cost benefit analysis and time in your day. You couldn't do what you did if you hadn't let go of that. There was probably very little opportunity that you could parallel just due to time and energy. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Right.
Totally agree. 1,000,000%.
Wow. What a scary yet liberating feeling of
truly.
Oh, wow.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Hi, everyone. If you are digging this podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. It just takes a moment, and it means a ton to us. Also, after recording more than 100 episodes, I've created a bit of a cheat sheet on the top 5 things I've learned from renegades and how they get from idea to action, from dreaming to doing. I will email you the downloadable PDF when you subscribe to my newsletter. Just head to amyjomartin.com and click on Connect with Me. Let's talk a little bit about I would love to even get a little tactical, because you have such value to offer in an area that so many people struggle with. And as I was, reading your materials, and I'm like, yes, I need to learn more of that. And I'm like signing up for stuff. One of the areas I'd love to explore with you and get your opinion on is this notion of how sacred and important email is, and the volatility of social media. And I bring this up because I'm going to be forthcoming and vulnerable for a minute here. I opened up my Twitter account Monday morning, and over the course of 24 hours, this has never happened before, I lost 150,000 followers.
Wait, what?
Yes.
Okay, I need details.
Literally, what they had to have done is scrubbed bots. So if you think about, and you and I started our companies, if LinkedIn is accurate in terms of, I think you were 2009 in March, I was 2009 in April. So we were going through this, like, we're starting our companies, economic cycle had just happened, and things were crazy out there. But things were rocking and rolling when it came to Twitter. And I rode that wave, and literally overnight, Amy, 150,000 followers just gone. So it tells you that also I was on the suggested users list back in the day, which meant a lot of people who signed up could opt in to just follow me and some other people because of whatever. So I know that especially over the last 3-4 years, the algorithms and the following, it's all very different, especially on Twitter. And we know that changes all the time with Instagram and Facebook. However, it really just made me realize, no, this can change overnight, because you hear that and you think, but in my case, that's crazy. I mean, to me. So what do you think about that? And let's talk about the value of email too. I'm just going to kind of open it up to you and share your thoughts, because you probably deal with this and have this conversation, and courses all the time.
Yes. And it's so interesting that you bring this up right now about losing the people on your list like that, because we recently did a list scrub and we lost a lot of people as well. And we kind of had to make the conscious effort. We said, okay, if you haven't opened up an email from us in the last 6 months, we need to take these people off of our list because they basically ruin the health of your email list when you're emailing and people are opening up emails. It's an algorithm thing that's working very much against you. And so we lost tons of people too. I think it was almost 100,000. So I'm with you there. And so when you said that, I'm like, how did you have the same experience? So I get it for sure. And it hurts. And most importantly, though, I'm going to get into some specific tactics, but I will say it hurts our ego. Would you agree when you look at that number?
Totally. That's the first thing I thought, and thank God I've done some work on the ego lately. I've needed to. I've had a couple of seasons of humility, but that's the first thing I went to. I was like, okay, that's my ego talking. However, it's also, you have marketing partners, it's also a business thing,
Yes, it's true. It's part ego and part very much strategy in terms of how you do business. And so here's what I'll say. I believe that the energy of your business is directly tied to the strength of your email list. And so what I've started to teach more and more is that we've got to throw our ideas and expectations around how many people should be on our email list totally out the door. And I've been interviewing more and more people that have a few thousand people on their email list versus my list of over 200,000, a few thousand people on their email list, and they are doing incredibly well revenue-wise and impact-wise in their business. I think the world has changed in terms of online marketing, and it's so much about building that bond in that relationship with your audience that you get to have a really small email list that can be incredibly profitable for you. And what that means is that, one, we all should be offering something of great value for free in exchange for a name and email. We call it the lead magnet, the freebie, whatever you want to call it. But I think that if you're running an online business, you must have at least one core lead magnet out there that people are so excited to give a hot commodity like their email address, give it up in return for this freebie. But that's where a lot of my conversation in the past kind of stopped. I didn't really teach beyond growing the email list. I've really had a change of direction or mindset around list building that is such a small piece of it. Yes, you've got to get people on your email list, but the hard work happens when they're on your email list. The fact that I let go of over 100,000 email subscribers because they were not opening up my emails is because I wasn't focusing on the health and the relationship and the bond of that subscriber with me and my business. And I was focused more on building that email list up. And I had it so wrong in so many respects. And that's why I continue to teach now. We got to focus on the health of that email list, what we're emailing, creating original content, creating the relationships. So I know I feel like I'm up on a soapbox, so I'm going to step down right now, but I feel very passionate about that.
Stay on that soapbox because you're sharing information that is so valuable that people need to hear. And I love that you're getting a little bit tactical as well. There are tangible things that you're saying that people can start thinking about and doing immediately. One of the things that you just said, you believe that the energy of your business is directly tied to the strength of your email list. And that is so true and so hard for some of us to hear because there hasn't been enough time and energy spent on email yet. That doesn't mean that can't change. But
right.
For those people listening, this is huge for you to be hearing. If you're thinking of launching something, if you already have and you're wanting to grow, if you have any revenue, any revenue lines or your economic model revolves around the internet at all, listen to this because it's huge. So I used to have this phrase that I used called hollow followers and on social media, right? The people who don't ever engage or act, and you don't even know if they're there, and they're the people who get scrubbed, like the 150,000 on Twitter. And it's good, and we know that, and we talked through, mating our ego a little. But do you believe, to what you just said, that there's a percentage that just are going to go hollow. And there's a percentage that you could have saved with those 100,000 emails that you just scrubbed, like, because you're the best of the best and you're a pro. So should we be okay with the fact that, yes, X% are probably going to drop off and just kind of get used to that? Or should it be something that we're really fighting for and get super competitive?
I think definitely, no matter what you do, a portion of those people are going to fall off 100%. And
do you
really,
have like percentages?
Okay,
Not really.
so I don't have percentages. I wish I did, but I will give you something tactical to work with. And that is, you've got to look at how you're getting them onto your list in the first place. So let me give you an example. I run a lot of Facebook ads to a webinar. And in the webinar, I sell one of my online training programs. And so we're running ads to a cold audience. And because they're a cold audience, they do not have a good relationship with me yet. And so if I do that every day, which I do, I know that there are going to be people on my email list that get on the webinar, might not like what they see, and then they're never going to open up another email from me. There's not much I could do about that. However, there's going to be a lot of people that come in cold and they want more and they are not ready to buy from me, but they want to know what I have to offer and they're interested. That's where I can step in. So my point being is that we all have the opportunity to strengthen those that are on our email list right now. And what they're looking for is they're looking for a connection with you. They're not necessarily looking for all the tips and tricks and tons of content from you. They want a little bit of that and they want a lot of you. And so that's what's changing so dramatically. They want to feel that they have a connection with you. And I feel that that's what a lot of us, including myself at one point, we were missing in our email marketing. So now when I email my list, almost every email I email every Thursday to let people know I have a new podcast out, I've been putting selfies. This sounds ridiculous. Selfies in my emails. Now, I hate to take pictures. I hate taking selfies. I feel so indulgent when I do. However, we've noticed that when I include pictures of me or my dog or my family, like me and my husband in a picture, people are more likely to read the email, click, and go listen to the podcast. They want more of you. And so that's what you can do so that the people that are never meant to be hollow, they want to engage with you. That's how you're going to bring them into the fold, by offering more of you.
So good. So helpful. And you're exactly right. If you think through even prior to 10, just email marketing is not new, but the way we consume it and our thresholds and tolerance for it has totally shifted. If you think about your own behavior when you get something in your inbox. So, okay, so next quick tactical question, and then I'd love to shift gears a little bit to webinars, online courses, because a lot of questions on that too. Let's say you have a lot of things you're offering, like yourself. How much do you try to segment? Meaning, let's say someone's coming to you because they want to listen to your podcast, but they just aren't into online courses, or let's say you were selling a book or XYZ. Do you start with a bigger funnel in the beginning and then segment down, or do you try to segment out of the gate?
So I have a very specific offering. So this is such a great question. I teach list building and course creation in webinars. And so if you come into my world and I am really general with my messaging, kind of like a bigger funnel in the beginning and then try to scale down from there, I feel that I'm leading people in the wrong direction. I like to put out there right away what I'm all about. And so I start with the specifics. I lead with list building, or I lead with course creation or webinars. So I've got kind of 3 things I lead with, and then I get into even more detail around that. However, that's not the only way to do it, because if you have a lot of different things that you can offer, which I feel like you do, you could start with a bigger funnel in the beginning. I really do think that it's a preference based on your business and your brand.
Smart. That makes a ton of sense. And I won't be selfish anymore with my own questions.
I love them.
But at the same time, as people are starting, and let's say someone is out there and they want to build a course, they want to do an online course, and they're not sure, should they do a live webinar? Should they try and create a course that can sustain and reside without them. What are some of the questions we should ask ourselves if we're thinking about doing this? Let's say there's a florist and she or he just feels like they have a really unique edge and a lot to offer and they want to build a course, but then they go on the internet and they find all these things on Skillshare and the various platforms where you can take courses, and they get discouraged and say, well, that's already out there. What do you think they should ask themselves in terms of filtering, should I do this or not?
Oh, so good. Yeah. So I get this question a lot. And a lot of people say, I've got this idea. And in your example there with the florist, a lot of people will say, but I've seen it's already been done before. Or I get, there's so much free content around what I want to teach inside of a paid course. And what I always say is that what people will pay for is, one, a roadmap, the blueprint, the guide to get from point A to point B, all in one place so they don't have to hunt and peck all around the web to get the information they want. So what you're providing is a very unique roadmap, and only you can provide it the way you're going to, with your own personal stories and experiences and case studies or whatever that might be. As a florist, you do things very unique in a way that nobody else does it. And so one, we've just got to own that and know that no one will be able to teach it the way you teach it. So I never worry that it's been done before. I mean, I'm in a very congested market in the sense that tons of people teach webinars, tons of people teach list building. Back in the day when I was Facebook, everybody and their mother was teaching Facebook. So I never worried that it had been done before. I always knew that I was going to bring something special to the table. Now, if you see that a lot of people are doing something similar to what you want to do, I say hallelujah, because that means that there is a demand for it. Typically, the red flag is if nobody's selling anything like what you want to sell, you've got to do a little bit more digging to make sure there's actually a need, that people really will pay for what you want to put out there. Now, I always say we'd never have anything new in this world if every innovator and creator said, well, it's not done before, so I'm not going to do it. It's a bad idea. Mm-hmm. So there's this really fine line that you've got to walk and figure, do you have a great idea, or is this an idea people aren't going to pay for? And so you got to do some research and see what's out there. And the best research you can do, this is for everybody listening, if you've got a course idea in you, you get on the phone and you start talking to people that might be your ideal customer avatar. What have they purchased before? Where are they struggling? Where are they starting out? What do they need? You listen. When I was a little girl, second grade to be exact, I was a talker, and my dad would drop me off every single day to school, and I'd get out of the car and he'd say, Amy, it's better to listen than to talk. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Now I see what my dad was saying, because I've learned a lot from my students in just shutting my mouth and listening to what they're telling me.
So valuable. So you listen. Let's say this process is happening. You go out, do your research. You're like, yep, people are paying for this. There's no room for it to be done the same exact way as everyone else, but there is room for my way. And so I am going to, there's a demand. Do you usually advise first start testing and do some live content? Or do you go straight to?
I love this question. So yeah, one of the things you could do, I'm all about baby steps. And so one of the things you could do is to do a live workshop, maybe a 2-hour live workshop, where you take one of the ideas or one of the strategies or whatever it is you want to teach, maybe take a portion of that and you put it out there and you say, I'm going to do this live workshop. You could sell it or you could do it for free, whatever you want to do. Maybe you even say it's going to be $47, which is way cheaper than you'd ever sell your program for, but you just want to see if people will put a little skin in the game in order to learn what you know. And so you put it out there on social media, maybe run some Facebook ads to it, whatever you want to do, just to see if you get that initial hit of people wanting to learn about this topic. And then they get on, and maybe you even just have 10 people that paid $47. Just for the record, if you never made money online, you just made money online. And that's a turning point for every budding entrepreneur to make their first dollar online. So let's say you get a handful of people that come to this workshop. What you'll do is you will teach for 2 hours. You could do slides in your voice, or which I typically have done since day one, or you could show your face on camera and teach that way. We call it the talking head. Whatever you want to do, you can mix it up, slides and talking head, but you're going to teach for 2 hours and you're going to leave time for questions at the end as well, because those questions are golden. You'll learn what they want more of, what they didn't understand, whatever that might be. You record it, and one of the offerings is if you can't make it live, I'll send you the recording, which makes it even easier to sell. But dipping your toe in the water, I always say when you pre-sell something that you're going to deliver live in a workshop, you're not doing it to make big money. You're doing it to test the waters. And I love this way of testing the waters because then you've got to show up. It's super scary to do anything live for the first, second, or third time, but you're showing up. So you're up-leveling your entrepreneurial game. And then they're actually putting skin in the game to say, yes, I actually do want to pay for something like this.
Yeah, such solid advice. And it's not as time consuming to prep for it and get
Not
it.
at all.
Yes, you're not out a ton of time and energy if you decide to not go that route, right?
So
That's
true.
awesome. Well, we are getting close to our time here, so I'm gonna throw some rapid fire questions your way, Amy. What's your all-time favorite book?
Rework. I love the book Rework. It's so simple and you can get through it quickly, but so many great ideas for your business.
Awesome. What keeps you up at night?
Worrying about my students and making sure that they get to the finish line of my programs. I know if they get to the finish line and implement, they could do amazing things, but I worry that life's going to get in their way or their confidence will dwindle. So I think about that a lot.
Can you tell me about a time when you had an oh shit moment and how you got out of it?
Yes, we recently, this just happened. Our website was hacked and literally went down for days. It went up and down, up and down. Oh. And that was definitely an oh shit moment for me. And the coolest thing ever is I saw my team come together and say, what does it take? What do I need to do? Let's fix this. But it was kind of terrifying because all of my online training courses are tied to my website. So we lost $35,000 in just a few days. So it was a big deal, but I loved seeing my team come together. And that will never happen again because we have now safeguards in place.
Smart. Wow. That's definitely an awesome case study. And what's one lesson that you have had to learn over and over?
Ooh. One lesson I've had to learn over and over. I think it's that I cannot work myself to the bone. I make a lot of excuses of why I need to work long hours and why weekends are essential in making this work. And I am definitely a workaholic. And I find myself in those moments and I hit burnout. I think, don't come back here again. And then a year later, I'm in burnout again. So I've learned that I can get there quickly. So it's something that happens less often, but I've had to relearn it many, many times. I have to step away from the work.
Can totally relate. Thank you for sharing that. And the final question, what advice would you give to your younger self, Amy?
Oh, I love this question. So I was recently asked this question by a good friend of mine. And one thing I never have done in the past is made really big, audacious goals. I make good goals, but they're pretty attainable. And then I do better than the goal and I feel really good. But that's actually not the point. So I have this good friend, her name's Brooke Castillo, and she said that a great life is determined by the amazing goals you commit to, not necessarily what you achieve. And if I could go back to my younger self and even just more present day, I want to encourage myself to set big, audacious, scary goals and get really committed to hitting them, no matter if I achieve them or not, because she says the experiences are in the commitment to them. And I really do believe that's something I never learned when I was younger. So it's something I'm kind of stepping into now.
I love that take on it. Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. I have lots of notes here. I can't wait to continue to follow your journey and learn from you. And I'm just so grateful, Amy.
Well, thank you so very much. I followed you for so long. So I'm excited that we got to connect this way. And I'm honored to be on such a special podcast. So thank you for having me.
Hey everyone. Thanks for listening to the show. Hit me up on social media to let me know what you think. I'm at Amy Jo Martin on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I want to hear your Why Not Now moments so I can share them on the show. Just send me a note to whynotnow@amyjomartin.com. For show notes and other offers, you can visit amyjomartin.com/whynotnow. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for my email newsletter for exclusive content and announcements. A big thanks to Rock Salt Music for all of the tunes by the talented John Coggins. And of course, a hat tip to Richard Brewer for editing and producing the show. I'll see you next time. And until then, why not now?